and my length 5 inches. I'm actually going to go with 6 inches and hit OK. I'm going to be a little bit generous with the size. So what's going to happen is your side seam lengths are now not going to match, but don't worry, we'll fix that after. If you are in 5.2, you can use the Edit Pattern tool. Select both of the legs that make up the dart, right-click on one of them, and you'll find Rotate Dart. Then you have to left-click somewhere else on the pattern to move the dart into that location. So I want the dart to be over here at the armhole area. I'm going to left-click. I'll have this guideline, and then it will basically be restricting me to not be able to move beyond the old dart. Then I can left click at either the point or anywhere along this segment you see my cursor sliding along. I'm going to choose the point location. Then it's going to say select side to rotate. So I'm going to want to rotate this little piece downward. I'll click on that. And then this piece will pivot downward, stopping once the dart closes. Then you can left click and put that down. Then you'll still have to choose the finished length of the dart. Here you could right click at any point, or I can simply manually slide along this until I hit my old dart tip point and left click to place that down. Then the dart is going to move into the armhole, and I can simulate. So what it did was it did shorten my side seam. Then I can switch back to Edit Pattern, start moving my point, and then I'm going to hold the D key down and shift. Those are going to give me some guidelines, and then I can release once that area is straightened out. So this little point is left over. I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to even out the side seam length. So here I am at 14.2, here I'm at 16. I'm going to grab my front length, start moving, and right click and add 1.8. That's going to give me this 16.064. That's fine. So I just put it down. I'm over 0.064. I'm going to hold shift, move back, right click, and then move this back 0.064. Okay, a little move down, little move back up. So now I'm at 16 here and 16 here. Then I can grab segment sewing and close my side seams again and simulate. And even after the dart is closed, you can select that dart, right click and choose Edit Dart. And then I can increase the width of this. I'll make my total width 2.375. Every time I make this edit, I seem to get this error message that tells me the program has removed symmetry, and I can tell because these two pieces are no longer blue, which lets me know they're no longer linked to each other. If this happens, I can quickly select them afterwards, right click and choose Apply Linked Editing. I'm choosing Symmetric Pattern with Sewing under the Apply Linked Editing category. It's going to relink them, and then I can continue editing. Now I'm going to show you a different version for shifting your dart. If you are in a version of CLO that is 5.1 or lower, the right-click option for Rotate Dart will not be available. We have a slightly different method that we would use, instead incorporating the slash and spread tool to get this same type of dart shifting. Both methods begin with cutting a dart out of your side seam first. So when I pick back up for this version, I have backtracked to the point where I have just taken the dart out of the side seam. And now I'm going to show you option 2 for shifting your dart. I'm going to use the slash and spread tool. You can draw a line here as well and use the same tool. But I'm going to click on my dart point area and then my armhole, then click on this section and swing this downward. To put this down or release it, you have to make sure that you have no overlapping occurring on your pattern. So if you see this point either directly on top of that line or crossing over, when you left click, you're going to get this error that says pattern outlines and holes are intersecting. So just be really careful. Give yourself a tiny little bit of space. I can tell right there that they are very, very close but not overlapping, so I can left click and put it down. Okay. So it doesn't cut this out. It leaves some baselines in its place. Before we cut this out, I need to go to the edit pattern tool and get rid of this tiny little slice into the pattern. You can do that really easily by clicking over here. This is the end of that point and simply deleting it. When you delete it, this is going to close up. And then I can take a minute and straighten out my side seam. Before I do this, I'm going to see what my curve points look like. I have some curve points here. So I will delete this one. I don't need that. And then get the edit pattern tool and I'll hold the D key down as I shift it back and it won't let any of the curve points move. If you don't hold the D key, they will move around. And then I can hold shift so it moves horizontally, hold D down simultaneously, and get that all aligned. So this is going to take a minute to just clean up and get an actual dart in here and get the armhole nice. I've lost some length at my side seam. Here I have 16, and now here I have 3 inches less. I am going to select only the front bottom hem, start moving right click, and add 3 inches. So now the dart needs to be cut open. Using the trace tool, I can hold shift and select these 2 markings, right click and choose cut. All of my stuff has come unsewn. I'll go in there with the segment tool or the free sewing tool and sew that all shut. Okay, now that I have this dart here, one of the things you really want to look for is that you don't have really big drag lines at your side seam. If you do, you probably want to start with taking a larger amount then out of that initial bite. I probably could have removed an additional 1/2 inch or so, and this would sit a little bit better, but I can now do the following. I don't need this line here. I'm going to use the trace tool to delete it. This as well. There's a little baseline left over there. And I'm going to start just manipulating my dart. The first thing I'm going to do is move the apex point around a little bit. There's a transparent view. So you can switch to transparent view, and while you're moving your dart, see how close you're getting to your apex area. And then I'm going to start slowly widening this dart up. So from here, I'm going to select this point and start moving, but I don't want the armhole area to move, so I'm going to hit D. And when you see stuff like this happening, it's because there's a curve point there. So I'm going to let go and hit Edit Undo to undo any minor change that I made. go in with my edit curve point tool and